changing of the seasons.
Just all about thinking positively, isn't it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, welcome to everybody. We are the Live Well live team this week. Myself, my name is Samantha Wellapilly. I am a GP. I'm also a nutritionist and a coach, and I am part of the weight loss team here at Boots Online Doctor, and we are really committed to bringing you the holistic take on weight loss because we know it is so important for that long-term result that we want for everybody. Whether you are on weight loss medication or not, it doesn't matter. These talks that we give every Monday are so relevant to you if you're looking to lose weight. And I am joined today by my colleague Ruth, who's going to say hello also.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who've not met me before, I'm Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor and really also part of the lifestyle medicine and weight loss team. And we love coming and meeting with you on a Monday. It's your opportunity to bring along any weight loss related questions that you have. Please do pop them straight into the Q&A box. We will be starting today by sharing some slides with you, and then we'll come to your questions as per normal. So please do feel free to ask anything that's relevant to you. If you do have a very specific medical related query to do with your medications and your health, then we will generally direct you back to your healthcare provider. But, we will just let you know if it's outside the remit of what we can safely answer in a webinar. And we have a few polls that we're going to be sharing with you today. We are keen to know where you are in terms of your weight loss journey. So we're going to start in a minute by checking in with where you are on your weight loss journey, whether you're at the very beginning, in the middle, or even got to the point where you want to be maintaining your weight. I'm very keen to know what's going on for you. The polls are completely anonymous, so feel free to be involved in them. We'll only know the sort of numbers that are answering the questions. We won't know specifically who's answering what. And we're also joined today by Raman, who is part of the Boots Online Doctor team and who's very much here to support us in terms of sharing links and making sure that any technical problems are ironed out as quickly as possible. Do say hello in the chat box. We'd love to know a little bit more about you if you've been here before or if you're here for the first time. Very warm welcome. Do just say hello. I'm based down in Hampshire. I went to the Isle of Wight for the day on Saturday, Sam, and it was beautiful. Actually, managed to have a little picnic on the beach, lots of beautiful leaves everywhere. Yeah, perfect.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, do let us know where in the country you are, what the skies are doing in your area. It's always good. Oh, welcome, Tracy. First time, and you're in Bristol. Fantastic. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, just let us know. This is live, so we are here and we would love to hear from you. And it's always good to connect with you guys. So yeah, the poll has just been launched there. Thank you very much. But let's get on with our subject of sleep and how important sleep is on a weight loss journey. And a lot of people don't realize this, don't, it's kind of a bit of a hidden, um, people don't talk about this when it comes to weight loss, that how important sleep is. Um, so, wherever you are on your journey, whether you're still working towards your goal weight or whether you're already nearly there and you want to maintain your results, either way, sleep is going to play a crucial role for you. So, um, this we need to think about sleep as our non-negotiable. It really is this long-term, um, I guess, a practice or a health adjunct that is going to really support all our systems for our whole lives, right? It's a long-term ally. And once your body reaches a new steady weight, maintaining a constant or consistent quality of sleep really helps to stabilize your appetite hormones and reduce the risk of gradual regain of your weight. Okay. Um, so a little bit of the science behind this, I suppose, for those of you who are interested, our appetite is predominantly affected by two hormones. We've got ghrelin and we've got leptin. Ghrelin is our hunger promoting hormone, and leptin is the one that tells us that we're full. And these hormones are directly affected by our sleep. Okay, so research has found that if we don't get enough sleep or we don't sleep well, the amount of ghrelin, that hunger hormone, that that production increases, and our leptin levels decrease. So that hormone that tells us we've had enough to eat. So you can imagine you are hungrier basically after you've had a poor night's sleep or not enough hours Okay, so we really need to consider that because there are lots of these mechanisms working in the background. We can really simplify weight loss into eating less, moving more, but actually there are so many other pieces of the puzzle that fit together. So we need to take a look at them all, but also we know that sleep is such a beneficial activity for all of us anyway. We really support our mental health with sleep. We really support our systems of rejuvenation overnight, our skin, our muscles, our memory overnight. So we really need to think about sleep if we know that sleep is a problem for us, especially if we know that we've always had a bit of a problem with sleep. Um, so also, you might have noticed this yourself. It might bring it home to you a little bit. You might have noticed that when you haven't had a great night's sleep, you might have noticed how it affects your food choices. You can probably relate to feeling tired, sleep deprived, feeling a bit groggy and a bit miserable if on a day after you haven't slept well. And you might notice that you crave foods that are high in calories and carbs, and you're subconsciously or on a deeper level trying to boost your energy levels. Okay, and that's when we try to seek out the chocolates, the sweets, the bread, the pasta. And although those foods give us perhaps that temporary sugar high or an energy fix, it's not a sustained feeling. And we've talked before in previous webinars about how craving these foods and how repeatedly having these high carbohydrate or high sugar foods messes with our blood sugar balance. And we know that the whole key of weight loss really is for the long term is aiming to maintain every day a balance of our blood sugar. So if we have these high sugar or high carbohydrate foods as kind of snacks, and that can be, our cookies or pastries or chocolate bars, we get that spike in blood sugar. And then we get the dip afterwards. So we get a crash afterwards. And then we're chasing our tails to achieve those highs. So you end up with these spikes all over the day rather than a nice smooth curve, which is why we really talk about, which we talk about all the time, protein, we talk about fiber, we talk about hydration, all those things that keep that level of blood sugar nice and steady, and that your body can really thrive when you have that constant source of fuel. Because, if we think about it, our sugar, our glucose is our fuel. We do need it, but we can make choices that help us to sustain a constant level rather than those kind of roller coaster lines on the graph that can really make us feel out of control over the day, more tired, more hungry, and we get into that. In, we get totally out of balance.
Yeah, and I can see some questions coming in the chat box, so thank you for those. And we will pick up on those towards the end of the slide share. But do keep them coming. And also, if you can find the Q&A box, that would be really helpful because we can find them a little bit more easily there. And I'm also keen to see we've got a few new people here today, so please do tell us what brought you today. We're really delighted to have you join us. Great, thanks for that, Sam. It's such an important topic and one that's so often missed, isn't it? Not talked about enough. So why? What are we thinking about? What hormones are really impacted when we have poor sleep? Well, cortisol. Too much cortisol can impact our production of melatonin. So we have a whole, cortisol is one of our stress hormones that we produce when we're under a lot of stress. So a lot of people here may be suffering from perhaps too much cortisol floating around in their system. We can also suffer with too little cortisol when we're perhaps feeling a little bit more burnt out. But if our cortisol is dysregulated, that can have a huge impact on our quality of sleep. Cortisol should peak first thing in the morning and is the sort of hormone that can help to wake us up. And it is really also involved in our production of melatonin, which helps with our ability to sleep. So if we're sleeping a low amount, somebody's asked in the chat box, how much should we sleep? So we would say a minimum of 7 hours. But sleep deprivation or poor quality sleep, and I can see from the questions that we've asked in the poll that a lot of you are waking up once or twice in a night. You're often having disturbed sleep. So this is really relevant. You might be getting a long time in bed, but the quality of your sleep might be really impacted. So this is really relevant to you. So we know that sleep disturbance, the deprivation or poor quality sleep can really affect our natural cortisol rhythm. And a lack of sleep at night tends to lead to elevated cortisol levels, which can interfere with our ability to fall asleep, our ability to stay asleep, and we could end up in this whole vicious cycle. So, too much cortisol, as I've said, can also lead to weight gain. If we have a lot of cortisol, more than we should necessarily produce in a state of health, if we've got a lot of stress hormone floating around, then we can have problems with weight gain and difficulty with weight loss. And that whole excess cortisol can also disrupt our hunger, leading us to have more cravings. And we're going to look at this more. We'll talk about this quite a lot in the stress webinar, but it's really relevant to obviously understand that relationship when we're talking about sleep. So many factors can affect our cortisol levels, which can lead to issues with our sleep. It could be things like our blood sugar, which is why, as Sam was saying, we talk about food and balancing our blood sugars as much as possible. It could be long-term stress. You might have a lot of stress going on in your life. Stress isn't just an emotional factor. From a sort of functional medicine perspective, we look at stress from all sorts of avenues. So it could be that you've got some inflammatory conditions going on in your body, and they could be adding to your stress load. It could be that you're a shift worker. Sam and I have both been shift workers, so we know how this is, we know how this feels, and we know that that can really disrupt your cortisol regulation. It can really have an impact on your sleep. And we know that any dysregulation in our sex hormone can really also affect the length and quality of sleep in both men and women. And when we've lost weight, our body sometimes remembers its previous set point. And so that sort of we need to really work about on thinking, maintaining our sort of current weight and really adapting our sleep patterns so that we can maintain our weight. So this is just as important for people who are in a maintenance journey as for those who are on that weight loss journey as well. So I could see that there are a few of you. So well done for those of you that are in that maintenance zone. We're keen to keep you there. Sam, let's move on. Me.
So, we talked a bit about appetite and poor sleep. I've mentioned it in the previous slide. Um, Knowing all about the ghrelin and the leptin hormones that are whizzing around our body. Ghrelin leading increased ghrelin after a poor night's sleep, leading to more snacking, reduced feelings of fullness because of that reduction in the leptin hormone as well. Um, and the research shows that sleep-deprived adults, particularly those sleeping under 5 hours, and I notice there are a few of us here that don't, that do really not get more than 5 hours a night, sorry, consume around an extra 300 calories a day. And that's often from saturated fats. Okay. And many people might also, who are in this pattern, might also engage in that sort of late night eating as well, which can increase hunger again. And also when you're not sleeping, you tend not to be so active in the day because you're tired and you're groggy and you're kind of dragging yourself around. You're not really in the mood to move your body as much as well. Okay, so we can really see how the roadblocks stack up to that sustained long-term weight loss. Okay. Um, Interestingly, a study on healthy individuals found that less than 4 hours of sleep a night for 6 nights in a row led to pre-diabetic blood glucose levels. Okay, so it really shows that sleep has an impact on our blood glucose control. Okay, contributing again to weight gain, to diabetes risk. Um, and also, I'm sorry, this is all a bit gloomy, this slide, but additionally, lack of sleep is linked to a 40% higher risk of obesity. Okay. But I think it's important to be armed with the facts to know that sleep is so rarely talked about because it's not doesn't seem very glamorous when we're talking about, the latest fad diet or whatever breakthrough we've had. Good old sleep is such a powerful factor in your weight loss journey and in your overall health journey. So when we talk about weight loss, we're really looking from the perspective of metabolic health, and we're really looking at our risks of heart disease. We're looking at our risks of diabetes. We're looking at our quality of life. Okay. We also, we also know that if you're consistently sleep deprived, weight loss is more likely to result in you losing muscle tissue. Okay, which again, we love muscle tissue. It's metabolically active. It is keeping you strong, of course, and and what it is doing is it's bumping up your metabolic rate. And if you're losing muscle tissue, it makes it harder for you to maintain healthy and sustainable weight loss. Okay. Um, and also we know, as we said before, if you've not slept very well, all those good habits, all those, efforts that you've put in can really slip because you're tired and you're annoyed and you're more irritable, and we can just make bad choices. I mean, I've definitely, as a shift worker, had terrible, like weeks of terrible sleep and or just really bitty sleep, and I can see myself making not so great choices in terms of what I eat and drink and that kind of thing. I don't know if anyone in the chat can relate, but I can see it myself and sort of look back on the days when I did do that kind of work, Ruth. I'm sure that you can probably relate also that it's that is not an easy situation to be in when you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, very much. I think very much so. And it isn't just down to shift working, is it? It's just life. If you're going through a particularly stressful period, or, if your hormones are dysregulated and you're going through perimenopause or menopause and your sleep's adversely affected, or if you've got a lot on your mind and you're waking up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep, all of these things are going to play havoc for you in terms of, this is one of the biggest pillars, I think, for many people. And if you
Yeah.
can balance your sleep, balance your stress, balance your hormones, everything will fall into place much more easily. And I think it sounds too easy to say that. And we know absolutely it isn't easy at all. But actually, we have to actually recognize the things that are tripping us up, I think, what's getting in our way of getting the success that we're really, really working hard for. You're here today, you're giving up your precious time. This is obviously important. So thank you for, putting that attention to this really important subject. So, yes, let's look at drinks because this is also a really important area to really think about because drinks and what we drink, as well as what we eat, can have quite a big impact on the quality of our sleep. I'm sure we've all thought about caffeine, and some of us will think, oh no, I'm not affected by caffeine at all. I can drink as much as I like. It doesn't affect me in any negative way. And that may be true of some people, but actually, surprisingly, caffeine can be a real part of the story. And it's sort of suggested that we want to be limiting our caffeine intake to around 400 milligrams as the uppermost limit in a day. So, caffeine can be from teas, coffees, hot chocolate, green tea, matcha. All of those drinks will contain various amounts of caffeine. Decaffeinated drinks will also contain a little bit of caffeine as well. So, we don't want to just put them on the, oh, there's no caffeine in their list. Only things like the herbal or the fruity teas, if you're drinking those as a hot tea, will have a lack of caffeine in them. So you really want to be thinking about whether you're having too much caffeine. We know that people process caffeine at different rates, but generally speaking, it takes about 1 hour for caffeine levels to peak in the body having drunk a caffeinated drink, and it can generally stay there for several hours after. So by 5 or 6 hours after having that cup of coffee in the morning, half the caffeine will be cleared from your body, and it takes this time again to get the rest of it to completely leave your body. So for many people, it's fine to have caffeine in the morning. That's not going to have a huge impact on sleep. If you're highly sensitive to caffeine, you might find that you really want to be limiting your caffeine intake to much lower than that 400 milligrams. So it really is about personalizing this to yourself and actually just experimenting. If you're somebody who thinks, oh, I'm fine, maybe just test. If you're really having sleep problems and there's nothing else going on, it's worth just looking at what's going on for you in terms of what you're drinking and whether that's making a difference. So a normal Americano, just a 1 to 2 shot Americanos will have around 75 to 150 milligrams of caffeine in. So it's quite significant. So you're only going to need three of those, really, 3 or 4 of those, and you're going to be probably up to your limit. So I know from speaking to lots of people that people are often drinking caffeine all day long. And again, a bit like a sugar prop, it's another prop that we can use when we're sleep deprived to keep us going. But actually, it could be having completely the adverse effect in terms of just maintaining that poor sleep pattern. So, really, really think about this and think about whether it's relevant to you. And for many people, we would very much recommend not to drink any caffeinated beverages after lunchtime. So, see how that sits with you. Sam.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ruth. So, um, so we have to accept that we're all a little bit different. Okay, we're not all exactly the same, and but really the bulk of the research is quite clear. Um, Getting between 7 and 9 hours of sleep a night is important for our general health as well as our weight. So that's we can think of we can think about an average of 7.5 hours of sleep. Okay. Higher rates of obesity have been found in people who get less than 7 hours of sleep per night. Um, and that regular short sleep duration of less than 6 hours a night has been associated with a high BMI. Um, so, we've talked about the effects on metabolic and cardiovascular health. So we can see that less than 6 hours of sleep a night increases our risk of insulin resistance. We have, because of all the factors we've talked about, the changes in our hormones, the sort of grogginess, the sort of trying to prop ourselves up, maybe with caffeine, maybe with cookies and chocolates and pastries, that sort of thing, that increased calorie intake leading to that higher BMI. Okay. So ultimately, basically, the underlying point is increased sleep, better weight management. And I know that it's not meant to sound trite. I know a lot of people have struggled with sleep for a long time. It's not something that can be solved, with a snap of the fingers. It is something that we have to look at and work at and maybe increase incrementally. But sometimes there are subtle things that we're not even aware are impacting our sleep. Maybe it is the caffeine over the day. Maybe it is worry, maybe it is stress and it's not dealing with whatever the root cause of stress is. I totally understand the concept of having sleepless nights because you're worrying about something. Um, but we have to, it's almost another signal from your body alerting you that this needs attention and this needs your conscious attention in the day to somehow resolve and process whatever is going on, the stress that's going on in your life. We realize that stress is always going to be present. We know that we can't just get rid of stress in our lives, but sometimes we need some extra help to help us through and to get ourselves back into a rhythm, some kind of rhythm that supports our health, our mental health, our physical health. Um, so yeah, and there is a lot of evidence, as we've already talked about how much this will impact your weight loss journey as well, which is why we're all here.
Yeah, very much so. So now let's think about what we can do. If sleep is something that we're really struggling with or that's eluding us in a really positive way, and I can see from the questions that there are quite a few people who are keen to sort their sleep out. Let's have a look about what we can do to try and improve our sleep. There's a lot of things that we're going to go through over the next slides. So take a note of anything that you think might work for you. So it's interesting that there are certain foods and drinks that are thought to be helpful for sleep. Interestingly, kiwis. Who knew? But actually, I know a few people who've tried eating kiwis at night time with poor sleep, and it does make a difference. Kiwis boost our levels of serotonin that again might help improve our sleep cycle. And people who are regularly eating kiwis who've been struggling with sleep found that it led to their ability to get to sleep faster and to sleep for longer. And that's just 2 kiwis at night. Almonds are a source of melatonin and magnesium, so thought to be helpful for promoting restful sleep. So you could have a few chopped almonds with your kiwi fruits. Some people are mentioning that they're having difficulty getting back to sleep when they wake up in the middle of the night. So things like a little portion of protein before bed can also promote better sleep. So you might want to be thinking about some eggs or some avocados, some natural yogurt, some nuts. And interestingly, casein, which is found, a protein which is found in milk, may also, and dairy products can also help with sleep. So I was reading something about a hot, warm drink, almost as being one of the sort of staples to have before bedtime. So that might be something that you could introduce and see if it helps with you. And if you find that you're hungry in the evening, I know you're on a weight loss journey, but actually balancing your blood sugars before bed, if you're hungry in the evening, may be something to really work towards. So it may be that protein, a little bit of something like an oat cake with some nut butters, a little bit of complex carb with some protein, may be something to really experiment with. We're talking about a mini snack here. We're not talking about a mini meal. We're talking about a mini snack. But even just that act of having something to balance your blood sugars may make a difference for you. So really worth trying with those. It can be really helpful. And then in terms of drinks, there are a few drinks. So we've talked about caffeine. The other thing that we haven't really talked about today is alcohol. So I was thinking we should have just popped that in as well on that slide. For some people, alcohol can be a real problem. Obviously, many people have a drink of alcohol in the evening as a way of switching off and almost a treat at the end of a hard, busy day, whether it's working or at home, and being challenged with whatever is challenging you. But alcohol in itself can lead to blood sugar dysregulation. So some people will find that alcohol may be something that actually is acting as a sleep disruptor. So it's worth just thinking about that. But from the positive drinks that we can think about, there's something made by the Montmorency cherry, a tart cherry juice, which is high in the amount of melatonin it has. You can get a concentrated cherry juice. It is naturally higher in sugar, but you would dilute that. And actually, a little bit of tart cherry juice on some natural yogurt or some Greek yogurt would be a great bedtime snack, winning on many levels, good proteins, good fats, and also a little bit of melatonin boost. Passion flower tea has been found to increase production of one of our calming neurotransmitters. So again, that can be something to introduce in the afternoon and in the evening. Chamomile tea again contains something that helps to increase sleepiness and reduce insomnia. So 2 cups of chamomile a day has been found to be beneficial. And also just a warm evening drink as part of your bedtime routine, and then the valerian root tea as well. So there's lots of different things that you can experiment with, combinations of those, and just seeing if they layering them in with all of the other things that you're doing can make a difference. And if you're swapping them out, the caffeine out and popping these in, then the effect will be really a double whammy, really, won't it? Yeah. So Sam,
Thank you, Ruth. Um, so what we're talking about is really this, we're working with the circadian rhythm of our body. So if you've not heard of that, that is our natural sleep-wake cycle. That sort of um, natural rhythm that our body is used to. For example, that, the melatonin being released at night to help us sleep, the cortisol coming in the morning to wake us up and get us ready for the day. Okay. And when you can see that if your sleep is choppy or it's really difficult for you to get sleep, you're very wakeful, that rhythm of your hormones will be disrupted. Okay. So there are ways that you can support your body to reset that circadian rhythm. Early morning light is a really good one. It's really simple. So first thing as you get up in the morning at your normal wake up time is that you open the curtains and you actually get some morning light. You actually let your eyes receive daylight. Okay. I know that gets more difficult as the clocks change and as things change, but as much as you can, as soon as the sun is rising, you're getting that daylight. So you have that stimulation for wakefulness during the day. Okay. And you really want to get as much daylight as you can over the day. I know that that can be difficult for some of us, for example, working on wards or working in an office, where you might not have as much opportunity, but do what you can to get daylight over the day so that your body knows this is a time to be awake. Our bodies are incredible. They are primal, and so our bodies respond to these primal signals of daylight, for example. And at nighttime, talking about our bodies being primal, blue light is everywhere. And you might not, if you don't know what blue light is, it is the light that is emitted from screens. So from our phones, it's a certain frequency that's screens, our TVs, our phones, our computers, that promotes wakefulness. And you can get, if you so choose, a blue light filter. If you wear glasses on your glasses, you can get blue light screens to put over your screen so that you're not being zapped with it at night. It's not doing anything bad to you, as far as we know, other than keeping you very awake and aware. And it's a stimulus that your brain is getting that if you're watching TV, late into the evening and then you're wanting to go to sleep, well, you've just stimulated your brain with this frequency of light that is promoting wakefulness. So we generally advocate a wind down at least an hour before bed. That's screens off. And I know that for many of us, that sounds like a very difficult thing. But then think about blue light blocking tint on your glasses, which you can get at the optician, or even a sort of stick-on screen for your phone. I believe things like the iPhone will have a nighttime mode, in which case they reduce the light that's being emitted from the phone. And I'm sure Android does something similar. But just to minimize that blue light that will be just buzzing away at you. And again, these are totally subtle things that you might not be aware are interrupting your sleep. And then you're going to bed and having only, you know, 5, 6 hours sleep, and you might be wondering why. Have a think about what your routine is before bed. What is it that might be interfering with your ability to get those hours that you know are really going to boost your weight loss journey, but also your health journey in the long run?
Yeah, very, very, very helpful. Thank you. And we've shared, I think, the link to the sleep shavasana that you've recorded for us, Sam. So do take a look at that. Um, yeah, so it's really important. So, Sam, do you want to talk a little bit about the sleep shavasana?
Yeah, I mean, it's just if anyone would like something, it's so if anyone has been to a yoga class ever, it's generally the last pose, which is the corpse pose. And you might have done it in another situation as a full body scan. So it's just relaxing the whole body part by part. Really, it doesn't have a wake up call. So, you know, if you're in the yoga class, they kind of wake you up at the end and tell you to go home. But this one doesn't have a wake up call. So it's just sending you off, hopefully, to a nice, deep, relaxing sleep. It's my voice. So if you find my voice soothing, then please use it. And it can be, you know, I've had a lot of positive feedback from it. So I hope that people can use it and take advantage. It's a powerful practice, you know. The yogis have been doing these things for thousands of years, and they're pretty they're pretty fit and healthy. So please use it, and let us know how you get on with it. It's a good recording. Lemon says the best pose. Yep, absolutely. Well, some would say the most important pose in yoga, because relaxation is so vital for the body, and there's so many of us that really don't relax. You know, we're so programmed to not relax, to just be on all the time and to be productive and doing stuff, and we end up being human doings and not human beings. But don't get me started on this topic because I will never stop.
Human doings. Today. Thank you. So yeah, for the next few days, really just be kind to yourself. Remember, it's about practice. It's not about perfection. It's about being consistent. So if we're learning something new, or if sleep is something that you want to start putting some attention to, it's going to take a few weeks really to get yourself into a new pattern and to establish a new rhythm. You'll possibly have days when you feel like you've made all the difference and days when it doesn't feel like it's making any difference at all. We have to retrain our bodies to rest as well. So this is a really important, just being kind to yourself, just actually praising when it goes well, ignoring when it's not been so perfect, and not overthinking it, because I think we can make ourselves feel a lot worse by how we talk to ourselves as well. So practice whatever is relevant for you. If it's about eating more healthily, getting that protein and those healthy fats in, whether it's about cutting down the caffeine, have a think about what you're going to do and take stock. Don't try and do everything at once. Maybe choose the one thing that you can do and that you can do and commit to that's not going to be too complicated for you. And if you're in maintenance, don't forget that sleep is just an absolute foundation for lasting health. That's true for all of us, whether we're losing weight or maintaining. So, protecting our rest, nourishing our body, and let our nights support our days. I think it's a really important thing. So, I think it's so under considered. So, let's have a look and see what everybody's going to be thinking. We've shared our final poll with you. So, a lot of you are going to be setting a consistent bedtime and wake up schedule. Really like that. Well done. That seems to be the most popular idea today. So thank you. And limiting screen time for at least an hour before bed. Okay, thank you for that. We're going to stop sharing the slides in a minute. Just to remind you, we're going to be here for the next few days, next few weeks. What am I talking about? I must be a bit sleep deprived. Actually, I slept really well last night. So next week we're going to be talking about stress, which seems really relevant because we're talking so much about cortisol today. We're going to be looking at your metabolism and what you can do to support your metabolism at the end of October, and then talking all about food and how to eat to support weight loss and weight loss maintenance. So do please join us for those. And if you'd like to sign up, Raman will share the link to sign up for those webinars. So we're going to come now to your questions, of which I can see quite a few. How do we get the recording? So yeah, the recording of today's webinar will be emailed out to you if you've signed up for the webinar. So hopefully you will get that in the next few days once we've downloaded the recording and it's shared with you via email. It will also then be uploaded onto the YouTube.
Yeah, and if you just note down that YouTube uh, URL that Raman has shared, all of our previous webinars from since September last year are on there, so you can always dip in and have a look at what has been said.
Great. Crikey, some really complicated questions here. I'm going to leave all of those to you, Sam. So glad you
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
start.
Okay, we'll start with okay. What is there a test to discover what your cortisol levels are? There are tests for cortisol levels. I'm not sure how routine they are and whether you can speak to your GP about them. In general, you have to have sort of various symptoms. I guess it's like, why would you be testing your cortisol levels would be the question. They're not sort of a routine test because cortisol changes all over the day. It's not something that is, you know, you need to have a purpose. So I'm going to leave it there. And if you think that you have a problem with cortisol levels, then you should certainly speak to your GP. Um, but yeah, the testing will all depend on what are you trying to get to underneath. So I don't want to go into too much of that.
I guess if you're going to a functional practitioner, they may look at your adrenal stress index and things like that, which can be helpful, but it's not necessarily the whole picture. And again, it's as you were saying, Sam, it's just very complex, really. Somebody is saying they feel sleepy after eating lunch, even if they eat a low carb way. Do you have any tips to avoid that post-lunch slump? If I nap to digest, then I don't sleep well at night. Okay, yeah, and absolutely, you're possibly just napping too late in the day. There's lots of questions coming up about napping, whether it's good or bad, so we'll try and pick up on those. In terms of that post lunchtime nap or the post lunchtime dip, sorry, in your energy, I think one of the things you could consider doing is maybe just spending 10 minutes doing a little bit of a very sort of gentle walk, just to really help with insulin sensitivity. Sometimes it's just we want to get our cells responding to the amount of insulin we've produced to bring that the blood into the glucose into our blood. So it is really worth just doing a little bit of exercise, or even just doing some press ups against the wall, or some squats, or just something to really get your muscles working for you. That can really help in terms of that post lunch dip, and see how you get on with that. That can make it's so simple, but it can make such a difference. So hopefully that makes sense to you and it's something you feel you can try. Do let us know if that's not something that's within your grasp. Slowing down how you eat can also help as well. So just really eat slowly and just take time to digest. Anything you want to add to that, Sam?
No, that is, and it's not uncommon, right, to have that slump, and it's kind of something to to look at, composition of your plate and low carb, but so portion size. I think you mentioned Ruth as sort of um, to support you because yeah, and also maybe a bit of movement, in your lunchtime if we can get some movement in there too.
Yeah. How long should we have between eating our main meal or snacks and going to bed? Oh gosh, that's a really interesting question. Any thoughts on that, Sam? I'd
What
say
was that one? Sorry, I'm
how
just.
long before eating your main meal, snacking, and going to bed? So I think if you were having a
Mm.
snack, I'd say maybe 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed. Main meal, probably 2 to 3 hours before going to bed, just so that you've got that opportunity to really digest. See how you get on with that. And if you're hungry after having a main meal earlier, just pop in a little protein-rich snack and see you get on.
Yeah, yeah. Um, There is a question about the aura ring and a breakdown of sleep, not getting enough deep sleep. Um, I think deep sleep is important because it's the time when, or like REM sleep, the time rapid eye movement when your brain is kind of processing all sorts of bits and bobs. Perhaps I'm not sure how relevant. I don't know what the evidence is about weight loss and REM sleep or deep sleep, but I would probably be following all the same advice. Limiting blue light, I would be really trying to bring in a solid wind down ritual. So your body is really entering that relaxation mode. You're not suddenly switching from watching some thriller on TV and going straight into trying to have this really relaxed, deep sleep. So think about that, where that transition time, what is that transition time for you? How can you manage that in your daily life? And maybe you don't have the luxury of having a whole hour, but even if you had half an hour or 20 minutes, can you put in a nice practice in between there, something, even if it's having a lovely warm shower or a warm drink, just those things that are not involving screens, and getting yourself in the mode of sleep.
Yeah, and I think deep sleep, we probably only sleep deeply for 1 or 2 hours a night anyway. So if you're consistently getting a good 1 hour, you might be able to tweak it up a little bit. And really, it's whether you feel rested during the day after your sleep, or whether you're still feeling exhausted. Just check in with yourself as to your rings can be really helpful at sort of explaining what's going on physiologically or giving us a sense of perspective. But actually, we also need to actually ask ourselves how we're feeling and put those two things together so you can make more sense of what that aura ring's telling you as well. So I hope that helps. um Great. Somebody's saying, how do you mitigate the effects of poor sleep? Having the effects of ghrelin and leptin and that hunger hormones being really dysregulated. Somebody's saying they're in that frame of mind today and really struggling. So it's really difficult. I think the first thing to do if you've had a bad night's sleep is nail your breakfast and make sure you've really got a good quality protein in there. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be tofu, it could be nuts, it could be eggs, it could be Greek yogurt, it could be fish, chicken. I think we need to think outside the box, get away from those carb-based cereals as much as you possibly can, and really get that protein in there and then combine it with some healthy fats and a little bit of some, really good quality carbs as well. So really think about where your meals are coming from. Really plan your meals so that they're as balanced as possible. Use the core meal plan. If you can, or if you're taking any weight loss medications, we also have the core meal plan that we can share for people who are on a GLP-1, and really base your meals around that. And then eat so that you're not hungry in between your meals. Even if you have to have 3 or 4 small meals, that's going to be better than snacking on those sort of less healthy blood sugar wrecking snacks, which is so easy to reach for when you're feeling that sort of sense of dysregulation and stress that your body is experiencing today. So hopefully that will help. Yeah.
There are some really good questions on here, but I think we answered a lot of them in the body of the talk about wind down routines and um, something. How many bad nights in a row justify seeking professional help? That is such a good question. It's quite subjective, though, I'd say. But if we're saying that, consistently having I think it was 6 nights in a row, and you actually have signs of pre-diabetes on your blood tests, then actually, if you're consistently in a difficult pattern, I would be seeking advice from your GP because there are things you can do. And we're not going to talk about specific drugs because obviously some sleep medications are addictive, and we don't like to prescribe those in the NHS, and for good reason because we don't want to create any other problems. But there are lots of options, and hopefully in this talk we have given you lots of options to build into that nighttime wind down routine. Um, I read books on my Kindle at night. Oh, does it emit blue light? I don't think Kindle is the same. I would double check that. I'm sorry, you'll have to Google that about Kindle emitting blue light because I think they're a slightly different, papery kind of finish. They're not the same kind of screen unless you're reading it on a tablet, in which case it won't. But a specific Kindle, I don't think has the same uh, light coming off it. Um, Unfortunately, we won't be able to share the slides, but you can catch up on the webinar replay and have a look again at the slides and fast forward to the slide that you like and make notes if you wish. Thank you for that question.
The,
Um,
the good sleep question is really subjective. So if you feel like you've had reasonable sleep, but you're waking up every morning feeling wretched, then you need to look at the wider issues that may be going on in terms of your health. And one of the things that we could share with you is the sleep apnea um, questionnaire, because some people who have reasonable sleep but wake up feeling really tired every morning or just really lacking in vitality is really worth considering, just checking whether you're getting enough oxygen overnight. So sleep apnea can be associated with snoring, can be associated with people who have got weight to lose, and can just be something that other people will be experiencing anyway. So it is worth just checking through that questionnaire and seeing if anything is relevant to you, and then taking that to your GP if that is relevant. Would you agree, Sam?
yeah, absolutely. I wonder if we have a link to it, but it's
Do
the
you have a link? Raman, can you
yeah,
possibly find the link to the sleep apnea questionnaire? We should have that sitting somewhere. Um, in the We'll have a look. Otherwise, if you can't find it, so let us know.
yeah, yeah. Um, sort of. How bad is it to do things on your phone or play the phone as whilst watching movies? Um, I mean, if we're talking in terms of sleep, there's a question about sort of multitasking and playing games and watching films. I mean, these things are not going to be helping you to sleep, because you're just really stimulating your brain. And that's fine if it's the daytime and you're wanting to do stuff and that's what you like doing. I don't see a real problem with it. Personally, I like to do one thing at a time, otherwise I can't do anything properly. Um, but you might be different to me. But I think if you're doing that at night, that and you're finding that, but you assess it for yourself. Do you think your sleep is poor? And you're doing these things at night, I would say that that probably is if you are having poor sleep and you are fidgeting and looking at your learning something, you've got a film on, you're responding to someone on WhatsApp at the same time, there's we tend to get a bit overloaded, and I would see if you could gently reduce that and just find a non-screen based thing to do that helps you to unwind before bed.
Maybe,
Um,
yeah, maybe it's just very stimulatory to be doing layering in all of those things in one go. So almost see that as a stimulatory phase and just try and reduce. Somebody's saying that they've not slept well since the middle of July due to losing their mum. Really, really sorry to hear that. You don't drink caffeinated drinks. You are possibly just going through a sort of massive grief reaction to the loss of your mother. And it may just be that your adrenals are really struggling to cope. So I would do all of the things we've talked about, really balance your foods, really balance, maybe journal just to, cope with some of the emotions that you may be feeling and to express them somewhere. Maybe forest bathing and just being out and just doing really calming activities, maybe something to really bring into your life right now, just to bring back and to rebalance the stress that you've possibly been going through. Anything you'd add to that? Maybe try Sam's Shavasana. Um,
yes,
you know,
I was told in the chat box that the link wasn't working, so I've sent another link. So just use that for now. We will get the Boots link working again. Give that a whirl. I would just be really looking at nourishing yourself and your nervous system and just letting that nervous system calm down. Because I think if you're jangling, it's going to be really hard to get off to sleep. And I think I think we talk about it in the stress webinar about sort of brain dumping, sort of just before you go to bed, like journaling or just putting down all your worries or your thoughts and I would add in a gratitude practice as well. Just put in positive things as well as things that you just want to let go of and release overnight. Just having that a way that you have expressed it, you have let it out of your system, so it's not whirring away and whizzing around in your mind, keeping you awake. Um, yeah. Oh,
Really
we've got
interesting question here of which two or three habits give the biggest payoff if you can only change a few things. I love that question, because I think we all want to just crack in there and make a difference, don't we? So thank you for asking. I'm sure you're not the only person. If you feel overwhelmed, I would almost just make a list of all of the things you could potentially change. And this is true for everyone in the room. We often have more than one thing that we need to focus on, and then choose the one thing on that list that's going to be easiest for you to crack. So, and that is about you, it's about you as an individual. So, if that's that you can add protein to every meal, do that. If that's that you can go to bed an hour earlier at night and do some journaling before, do that. If it's that you can cut your caffeine down, do that. It is all about if alcohol is one of the things that you lean into the evening and you perhaps know really in your own mind that that might be something that's getting in your way, maybe start thinking about that. And it is about you each as individuals and what is getting in your way. For me, it's habit. Like I am very good at listening to talking books in the evening and getting caught up in the enjoyment. And then before I know it, it can be midnight and I'm still not asleep then. So I have to actually make a conscious effort not to do that. And so it's just being conscious of the things that happen in your day and in your evenings that are getting in your way, I would say. What would you say, Sam?
Yeah, I would definitely say we talk about this in our habits webinar. Pick the low-hanging fruit. So just what would be easiest? Don't try and do 10 things. Try and do one thing and see if it, see how you go with it. And then add in another one. If that one was easy, try another one. I do think that and I love the enthusiasm, but just go easy on yourself because it's tricky making a lot of changes and being consistent with them because we don't want it to just be, oh, I do it for a week and then go back to how it was. Like it can get a bit onerous if we take on too much. So, excuse me. One thing at a time. Have a look at all the things that we've suggested, the different foods, the different teas, the different drinks, looking at your drinking habits, looking at your bedtime, your wake up time, of course, that, basic things like that. Well, if you go to bed at 1 and you have to get up at 6, you haven't got much of a chance of getting, 7 hours sleep. You know, as I don't mean to be facetious, but just looking at those simple things, because as Ruth said, I can get carried away with doing stuff, and then all of a sudden you notice, oh my goodness, way past my bedtime. You know, I'm a bit scuppered for tomorrow. But just having that sleep time, wake up time, and trying to set that circadian rhythm, diurnal rhythm that we can train our body and our hormones to support us.
Okay. A couple of people are asking for the core meal plan. So, Raman, could you share the link for the core meal plan and also for the core meal plan when you're on a GLP-1? So please do have that. Somebody has mentioned that they are very constipated from taking a weight loss medication. So please contact your medication provider and they will be able to give you some advice, whether that's the Boots Online doctor or a different provider of that medication. Please get in touch with those. Send a message in to whoever you've got that from or call whoever has prescribed that for you and they should be able to give you some helpful advice. Mel is saying that she's used a weighted cover and it's really helped you to slip
Mm.
off to sleep. So thank you for that. I remember buying one of those for one of my daughters and it did seem to make a difference. But they are quite heavy. I don't know if you've found
I
it.
think you can get, I've got one that was too heavy for me. I think you can get different weights
You can get to
because my
the
one,
right way.
mine one was way too heavy and I thought it was being crushed. So yeah, it wasn't for me, but I have heard great things
Yeah,
from other
you have to
folks.
make sure it's not too heavy because some can't even lift them. Um, Somebody is asking about the replay. Don't know if you answered that, but yes, we will send out a link to the replay, and you'll find that in the YouTube section of the Boots Online Doctor resources. It will be put up in the next couple of days. Um, what if you're wide awake at 3 in the morning? What's the best strategy? It varies for all of us. So again, we've talked about maybe having somewhere to brain dump. So sometimes people are very awake and they've got lots of things churning through their minds, of things they need to do or things they need to sort out. So actually just jotting those down to get them out of your head can be helpful. Maybe if you really can't get back to sleep, the suggestion is for some people that getting up for 20 minutes and then having like a calming drink may be helpful and then going back to bed rather than, I think, for some people lying in bed and perpetually not still being able to get back to sleep almost can be quite stressful to the point that it becomes very difficult to get back to sleep. And yes, try maybe doing a sort of body scan and just a relaxation technique of some description and see how you get on with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention this is not about sleep, but the core meal plan doesn't really give you a calorie breakdown. This is deliberate because we don't talk about calories, because calories counting can be um, it can be useful at the beginning of a weight loss journey, just so that you have an idea of the energy content of different foods. But we have to really think about what our food is made of, what whole foods are made of. We need to think about fiber content, protein content, carbohydrate content, and how our body is processing the foods that we're eating. When I think if we just look at calories, we're not taking into account so many of the nuances of our foods and the benefits of a whole food diet. So think about look at the core meal plan as a way of building your plate. So we're not worrying so much about calories. We're really looking at that balance of protein, of fiber, of carbohydrate, of healthy fats, and really embedding those concepts more than counting numbers because we can tie ourselves up in knots, I think, with calorie counting. It might be useful for some, but in general, it's not a an approach we take.
Yeah, definitely. There's some great comments in the chat box, so thank you for those as well. Really good to hear that you are dealing with your emotions around food and you're entering the weight loss maintenance phase. So well done for that. We know that that's almost a new journey that you have to restart or reset your intentions. So we will be adding support in for anyone in that phase in our webinars. So thank you for sharing where you're at. Um, I've started needing to eat again during the night when I wake up for the toilet. Any food that wouldn't be too bad. That's really difficult. I wonder if you need to. I'm really interested in your terminology there. So thank you for sharing that. So the fact you've said you need to, is that a psychological need? Is that physical hunger? I'd really want to explore that a little bit more with you to know what's going on. But in terms of anything that wouldn't be too bad, something like an oat cake with some almond or peanut butter on, just something really tiny. But really, as much as possible, we would recommend that you try not to eat during the night. Somebody's asking about restless legs. This person's asked a lot of questions, so I think you're probably really struggling with sleep, and I wonder if it's something you should go and talk to your GP about, because I have seen a lot of questions from one person in particular. If you're really struggling, please don't struggle on your own. Please do take the advice, but if it really, if you're really struggling, please go and seek some medical help, because actually, not having good quality sleep regularly is really, disruptive to our whole health. So please do get some support if you feel you need it. We do talk about restless legs, and there are different minerals that can potentially help, but it feels like the situation that you're dealing with is quite complex. So I'd want you to get some specific advice. Is there a specific peanut butter? There's pip and nut, and there's also whole earth. So you want to get those peanut butters that have got no added sugar. They're just basically um, peanuts or almonds that have just been turned into a butter with nothing else added. Sorry to hear that. You feel really hungry, and it's an awful habit that originally started while being an inpatient. Yeah, that's really tough. It's a learned habit. Just see how you go. Maybe start making a change by having a good quality snack before you go to bed and see if that makes a difference. And again, seek out help. Let's not do this on our own. Sometimes we do actually need to have a sit down conversation with somebody. We're here
Yeah,
to sort of like bring you to a point of understanding whether what you're going through is something that making those simple tweaks will make a difference. It may get you part of the way there, but you may need some more specific, intense help. And, we would really advocate, if you feel that you're in that situation, that you really get that help. Yeah.
yeah,
It might
yeah,
also be that you're having too big a meal before going to bed. So maybe try and bring that earlier and then have a snack before bedtime. Because we have to digest, so our liver has to process all of that food. So there's a lot of work for our liver to be doing. And we really want everything to be focusing on being able to rest. So good luck and let us know how you get on. And we really hope that you can join us next week. Bring all of your weight loss and weight loss maintenance questions along. And yeah, we really hope you all get some good rest over the next week.
Yeah, let us know how you get on and what habits you take on and what works for you. There was just a very quick question about napping. Um, we generally would say, a 20-minute nap is okay, but longer than that, you want to be a bit careful because remember, we're trying to set that rhythm of sleeping in the night, being awake all day. So naps to catch up, you very occasionally, I think that's fine, but not as a regular thing. And generally, I wouldn't recommend really over half an hour. You're getting into dodgy territory, and then you might not be able to sleep at night, and it might be counterproductive. Anyway, we shall leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for your excellent questions and participation, and we
Do you
hope to
want
see
the
you next
back
week.
form that we could share? If we do, it'd be really helpful to share it if we before we sign off, if we can find the link for that. Raman, I'm not sure if it's too late to ask now though. But thanks everyone and have a good week. Look after yourselves. And thanks, Sam. Thanks, Raman.
Yep. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Raman. Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
bye.